What's up, gang? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and today we have another episode of 5 Reasons You Shouldn't Back. This time with Marvel Dice Throne. It's Kickstarter's turn to clap back. GameFound's been getting all the attention lately, and so Kickstarter decided to prove that, yeah, no problem. It can earn $1 million in less than 24 hours. Easy. At least I think it was 24 hours. Might have been a little bit more. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that Marvel Dice Throne has reached over $1 million, which is my threshold for this series. And I can't believe that I'm making 3 of these in less than a week's time. It has been a fantastic week for board games. Or at least these 3 board games. Until I came along. Now, for those of you who are new, and I always like to make this clear at the beginning of the series, I only do this sort of thing for games that are absolutely destroying their funding goals. Usually with the bar being $1 million US, because hey, if I had $1 million, well, maybe I would finally feel good about myself for once. I don't remember that line in the Bare Naked Ladies song, but should have been there. But with these incredibly successful campaigns, there's always a sense, at least for me, that if so many other people are getting something cool, well, I want it too. There's a degree of wanting to get that cool thing for yourself, regardless of if you actually wanted it in the first place, or if it would even be something that you would genuinely enjoy. So my goal with this series is I try to provide a few questions that will hopefully help you consider if you're buying it just because, or if it's something that you'll enjoy when it arrives a year down the line. Or hey, maybe you can use this series to take a peek into the new hotness as well. And if so, I'm sorry for tempting you in this way, or you're welcome for introducing you to your next favorite thing. And this is gonna be a little bit of a hard one for me. 1, that's what she said, and 2, not necessarily because I'm interested in Marvel Dice Throne. I mean, I've heard good things about Dice Throne before, but I've never really been drawn into the system myself. It's never been something that's really pulled me in, but this campaign is doing everything right. I'm usually of the mind that Kickstarters are losing their sort of ultimate value status that they once had. I mean, just think about getting in on Blood Rage's Kickstarter for $80, and now just think that I was lying to you and the real price was $75 or $70 if you got the early bird. Now that's a deal. And that's a campaign that wouldn't even have made this series because it only raised $900K. But this campaign is giving value to its backers, just straight up. Now, it's all about determining if that value is going to be right for you. But it's offering their base pledge for $85 US, where if you look on their web store, they're currently selling their Season 1 and Season 2 Kickstarter packages for around $95 US, and there is a projected MSRP of $110 US. So $25 off, not the most explosive of MSRP reductions, but still fairly decent. I would check in with your local game store to see how much their prices differ from Dice Throne's web store. I know Board Game Bliss has them for significantly cheaper, and that's in Canadian, but they're also listed as sold out kind of across the board. So they might as well be free because you can't get them anyway. Even still, with this Marvel Dice Throne definitely coming to retail, and depending on your local game store prices, I still think that this Kickstarter is going to be a decent deal and should at least be comparable to if you waited and got it at the retail. And that's after you factor in the shipping, which isn't always the case, which really has not been the case at all. So if you wanted this big Dice Throne box where you can hold all 8 characters in one box, well, you're probably getting it for around the same price as you would if you went to your store and picked it up. I also love how each individual character comes in its own separate game tray. It makes this game so accessible and so easy to pull out and get to the table. I mean, I talk about game trays and storage a lot. I absolutely love when companies take the time to consider not just selling the game, but how the game makes itself onto your table, and to consider the full experience of pulling it out and packing it away, and that makes a huge difference. I'm just a lazy little boy, and if something's easier to pull out and play, yeah, I'm gonna opt for that one over the thing that takes 40 minutes to set up. It also seems like a no-brainer because it benefits your company as well. People will play more of your specific game, and then when you're selling another game, they'll remember, oh hey, I play that company's game a lot. It just helps all the time. I love to see these game trays. I love the storage option that is being presented in this campaign. And hey, I can even appreciate that there's room for sleeved cards in the game trays, which honestly, I don't care about because I don't sleeve my cards. I'm not a monster here, okay? I just don't pour milk all over my components like the rest of you filthy animals. But again, it's a smart design thinking about all the people who want to play your game. Check. They're also subsidizing the shipping. To get it to Canada, it'll cost me 20 bucks US, which in these trying times, and I say trying times like shipping is the worst problem to be happening right now, even though it is a big problem. I mean, that does seem to be the general stance of this channel. But 20 bucks for shipping is a decent, accessible price to get this game to your backers. It seems reasonable, and I know the company is going the extra mile to do that subsidy and not put the onus fully on the consumer. In addition to all that, fulfillment begins June 2022, which is a bonkers turnaround for Kickstarter in general. But remember, this is fulfillment beginning, so you can expect to really get your game probably by September 2022. That would probably be a good bet, because it'll take the time for the ships to get here and for the local distribution to happen. Anyway, as you can see, this campaign is doing a fantastic job. Feels like it hits all the marks, giving you that probably cheaper, but at least comparable retail price point. And you get the 8 promo cards, the battle chest, and Thor's token hammer. His little Thor's meow meow. That's what it is, right? Thor's meow meow. Meow meow. And so this was a very genuinely pleasant surprise for me, because this sort of campaign is kind of not the norm lately. And even for cheapy old me, I can understand the price point of 85 bucks. It's $10-ish per character, and $10 for this sort of character booster pack, if you will, doesn't seem like an unbelievably gouging price point, even if you're not a fan of the booster pack model. Which I am not. I am terrified of LCGs because I'm afraid I'll get too sucked into them. But I'm sort of okay with the addition of new characters because, well, because it feels like they're not going to be able to produce characters at the speed at which an LCG does. And so this campaign has evoked in me this, even before looking in the rules, that this is something that I never knew I wanted, which is incredibly impressive and equally dangerous. Wait, they have collapsible dice trays too? Well, dice trays are something that I never felt I needed, but they collapse? And then I can roll the dice onto something other than my table, which I was fine with before, or the box lid, which I was fine with before, but they collapse? Oh no. In terms of the gameplay, I really like that it's fast and simple to pick up. You draw a card, increase your combat power, roll your dice up to 3 times, activate a power, punch the other hero in the face, move on. I've been noticing more and more that my girlfriend likes these sort of shorter style games, and so this game therefore is immediately on my radar. And there's something to be said about chucking dice at each other for 20 minutes. And then if I can have a board game that involves dice, well, maybe I can stop wearing the copious amounts of makeup to cover up the bruises that stem from having dice thrown at me every morning and every night for 20 minutes. It is not how you want to wake up. Although sometimes it does help with fading into dreamland, so it's nice to look on the positives sometimes. But speaking of the positives, it's time to get into the negatives. How's that for a segue? I mean, it is a super well-rated, light, Marvel-themed game, which many people might be in the market for. And if you're in the market for it, I understand it. I didn't know I was maybe in the market for it. But before you spend your still $130 Canadian after shipping, or $100 US, maybe I can talk you out of it a bit. So, here are the 5 reasons you shouldn't back Marvel Champions, Marvel United, Marvel Legendary, Marvel Dice Masters. Nah, that's not it. Marvel Crisis Protocol, Marvel Heroes, Heroescape, Marvel The Conflict Begins, Marvel Villainous, Marvel Splendor, 5-Minute Marvel. Yeah, this is probably going to go on for 5 minutes. 5 reasons you shouldn't back the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Dang it. And reason number 5 is that you're just getting it because it's Marvel. If you didn't know, there are a lot of Marvel games out there. Cut to 5 seconds ago. Marvel Champ. No, don't worry. I'm not going to make you sit through that again. And so it does beg the question, though, how much Marvel could Mrs. Maisel Marvel if her mouth was made of marbles? Because I know there are many people out there who see the Marvel IP and say, yes, Instaback, take my money, and other popular phrases in the internet's communal vernacular. But while this may be an alright approach to seeing movies, and I have this approach with movies, it's a Marvel movie that's not Thor the Dark World, it's probably going to be fun. The worst thing that happens is you're out $13 or whatever a movie costs. I mean, I usually go on Tuesday. I'm sure you could have guessed that. Tracks for my cheap personality. But hey, Canadians, who's in for that $10 Cineplex club where you get a movie a month? I'm getting off track here. The point is, just because you're a Marvel fan doesn't mean you have to have everything Marvel. Or maybe it does. Maybe that brings you joy. Some people will want everything. I know because I did one of these for X-Men United, and somebody jumped through the screen and punched me in the eye for threatening to not let them get all the Marvel content that they wanted, that they needed. So I guess the question you should ask yourself is the gameplay itself the thing that's drawing you in? Or is it based solely on it being Marvel? This is hype check number 1. Because if that enthusiasm for the IP won't sustain multiple plays after you find out that the game isn't to your liking because you didn't really look into the game in the first place. Now, reason number 4 you shouldn't back Dice Throne Marvel Dice Throne, is because Dice Throne Season 1 and Season 2 exist. The benefit with this being an already existing system is that you can play the already existing system and see if it's right for you. Moving on to the next point, I guess. Full stop. Because from what I've seen, and I've looked into the characters pretty substantially with as much information that's out there, well, they seem like different characters, and I'm sure they have different powers and different ways to manipulate their dice, and hey, different custom dice with different symbols on them. The essence of the game is still going to remain the same. You have your characters, you roll your dice, you punch each other in the face. And so while you have all these different characters that feel different, maybe also take a look at Season 1 and Season 2 and see if the characters there interest you more. Because the answer isn't necessarily buy everything. It could be, hey, I'm interested in the system. It doesn't have to be this particular Kickstarter either. The other seasons might actually be a better fit for you. So just, if you want, do your due diligence and check out those previous iterations, play a couple, see if it's right for you, see if you even enjoy it, and see if this is something that you anticipate will have a long-lasting life on your shelf. Because I assume that's what we all want. If it's not, well, hey, I appreciate you even just checking out the video and hanging out. But I assume we all want to play this more than a few times. So there is a way to do it that's not Tabletop Simulator that will give you the essence of the game and let you know if this is too much on the lighter weight side or you were expecting something different. Now, speaking of lighter weight, reason number 3 you shouldn't back is if you don't like King of Tokyo. If you've ever played King of Tokyo and you know the rules to Marvel United, well, Marvel United, dang it, to Marvel Dice Throne, Marvel whatever, then the parallels should be clear. If you've ever played Yahtzee, the parallels should be clear. You still have that same sense of rolling the dice up to 3 times, trying to make sets to do the thing that you want. But in this sense, it's all about the combat mechanisms of King of Tokyo because there's no other way to really earn points other than killing your opponent, being the last one standing, as the violent Marvel hero that you are. The only way you win is when you crush the other opponent under your foot and kick them out of the Avengers forever because they are unfit for duty due to the thrashing you just gave them. You were wondering where Captain America and Iron Man went? I think you have your answer. They didn't make the cut for this free-for-all brawl fest. Too much focus on Civil War and not enough focus on rolling their dice correctly. But in essence, King of Tokyo is a lighter game. And I like King of Tokyo. I do. I like it in a large group. And it's fun, it's quick, easy for people to learn, very accessible to people who aren't heavy gamers. But if I didn't like King of Tokyo, there is no way that I would be touching this game because the similarities are so similar. So if you don't like King of Tokyo, you actively don't like it, you shouldn't be contemplating getting this either. Because while I think there are differences between the two games, and I think there are enough differences to warrant owning both if you like this style, I think the parallels are too similar to ignore. And if you're just lukewarm on King of Tokyo, well, maybe give this a second thought, take a breath, ease the hype out, and make sure you're going to play this more than once, and examine if this will be enough of a difference from King of Tokyo to make it get to the table and not sitting on a shelf, just waiting for some friendly rat to help it escape the quantum realm of your shelf of shame. Now, reason number 2 you shouldn't back Marvel Dice Throne is that you don't like head-to-head dueling card games. And when it comes down to it, this is just a 2-player head-to-head dueling card game. I know it says it plays 2 to 6 players, but the consensus both on BGG and all the reviews that I've parsed through while preparing for this video as I Rotten Tomatoes myself into your computer screens is that this is a 2-player game. Yes, there are other modes. You can have a free-for-all king-making game, or you can have a team battle where you get to wait double the time to play the same game, or play 2 games simultaneously. So it's just 2-player games. It's 2 players. Now, as to the protestations that this isn't anything like a dueling card game, well, I guess I just have this to say.
So it's just like Duel Monsters. Then we use our dice to summon holographic monsters to the field. So it's just like Duel Monsters. Both opponents are given 3 hard points, and when they run out, the game is... So it's just like Duel Monsters. Hey, stop it! My game is nothing like Duel Monsters. Prove it then! My game uses dice.
There it is.
The witch!
And while I am finally glad to use that clip in its entirety, it still does have some merit. You're paying $100 for a 2-player head-to-head game. Albeit one that looks fun, but if that's what you've been searching for, well, you might as well get a couple of Keyforge decks off of Kijiji or Craigslist. Side note, if you are on Craigslist, it is Keyforge and not Key Party. My girlfriend was very upset at me when I made that mistake. Good night, though. But you can get a lot of other 2-player head-to-head experiences that are cheaper and are also fun and pretty decent. So is it worth $100? I don't know. Ultimately, only you can make that decision. Because the feel of it, while it's going to very much have that King of Tokyo feel and experience, it's also going to have that head-to-head, whittle your opponent's health down experience, because that's exactly what it is. So if you've been searching for that feeling, remember there are other cheaper options that maybe you could get instead for half the price or a quarter of the price. One that doesn't make you need to purchase 8 characters when all you really need is 2. And that brings us to our number 1 reason you shouldn't back Dice Throne is you don't need that many characters. Now, take this with a grain of salt, because for a lot of you, you will need that many characters. Well, you'll want that many characters. And I'm making this video before the inevitable Season 2 comes out, down the line with a whole new 8-pack of 8 new different characters. Hey, maybe you're waiting for your favorites. It's not going to happen in this campaign. They've said in the FAQs that there are no more additional characters planned at this time, aka this is made over $1 million. There's gonna be a Season 2. There are plenty more Marvel characters, even in just the Marvel Cinematic Universe alone, not to mention the comics and whatever movies will come out between now and then. And honestly, it is really refreshing to see a campaign that has it all out in the open like that. They're saying, listen, we're not going to throw in these additional add-on character packs. What you see is what you get. You can analyze it and make a decision and see if it's right for you. And I find that incredibly refreshing, and I think that's awesome that they're doing it. And I'm also really happy that people have responded so significantly. But let's be real, there will be another season of Dice Throne characters, presumably Marvel Dice Throne characters. I mean, it is almost a guarantee at this point, just by virtue of this campaign doing well enough for me to make a video about it. Yeah, I know, I do have that much cachet. Anyway, I'm sure you want to get all those characters, just like this series Unmatched. Additional characters and additional boards provide you additional options, and those options increase the replayability, for sure. But like I said previously, if you haven't tried the game before, do you really need to purchase 8 characters right off the bat? It's like if Villainous came out with a Kickstarter for their next expansion, and in it they had the Villainous Big Box, where you could get every single Villainous character, but you've never played Villainous before, you've only heard good things. Is the right call to jump all in on a game you've never tried, or is the right call to take a step back, purchase 3 characters for your 3-player group, see if it has the replayability for your particular group, and then dive into the characters. And conversely to this, for those of you who have Dice Throne Season 1 and Season 2, do you really need 8 more characters? Seriously, I'm interested. Comment below, how do these additional 8 characters impact the amount that you're going to be able to get dice thrown to the table and impact your enjoyment? How does it significantly enhance your dice thrown experience? Just by the additional options? Hey, you want those options? Get them. Valid if you like the system and you play it enough. But remember, this is all going to retail, and you do have the option to get those 2 extra characters down the line. Whether you have Season 1 or 2, or if you're going into it blind, see if you like them. See if you like the new changes. Because you'll have the option of getting 2 characters later on. Or even right now. Pick them up right now and play them. See if you like the system. If so, fantastic. And those 2 characters that you picked up, well, guess what? They function as well with Marvel Dice Throne. And now you've just given yourself an excuse to get 10 more characters. Woo! Instead of 8. I mean, heck, get the Treant versus the Ninja set and just pretend it's Groot and Elektra. And just call it a day. You might find that you're happy just spending $30 on that head-to-head experience rather than investing triple that. Triples. I got triples. Anyway, that's it for me. Those are my 5 reasons you shouldn't back Marvel Dice Throne. How about you? Do you agree? Disagree? Was this an instant back thing? I know that's what I've seen. A lot of people who like Dice Throne and who like Marvel have said, yes, I wanted more, you gave us more, I'm excited. Are you excited to be able to have Doctor Strange face off against Drax? Oh, sorry, the Barbarian, because they would be very different. Does thinking about all your current characters as if they were Marvel characters, because I'm sure there's a Marvel character that fits into every single one of those archetypes, does that dampen your excitement for Marvel Dice Throne? Make sure to sound off in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. It might convince me to make the plunge too, and also everybody else I'm sure will find it helpful in making their own decision. So they can stop listening to my idiot opinions and see the truth! For me personally, where I'm at, I had a momentary lapse in judgment. I got really excited thinking, hey, my girlfriend might really be into this. And then I showed her and she said, yeah, it looks fun. So I'm not gonna spend $130 on a game that, looks fun. So it looks like I'm in the clear for now until all of your convincing below changes my mind, because I'm a sucker for peer pressure. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want. It really helps me out a lot. You won't even know you did it. And I would appreciate it to the very bottom of my heart and soul. If not, hey, maybe I can convince you next time. Once again, my name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, so give me 1 second. Drax is the Barbarian. Jubilee's the Moon Elf. Pyro is the Pyromancer. Maybe the Collector is the Shadow Thief. Iron Fist is the Monk. Oof, Iron Fist was so bad. The Monk is better than Iron Fist. That's the exception. Maybe Captain America is the Paladin. Let's make Poison Ivy the Shadow Thief. Mr. Freeze is the Paladin. Oh, now we're getting out of Marvel. That's not it. I'll see you later.